When you're doing your mix, it's important to have a great environment for mixing it. We don't want to have any smoking, because smoking actually destroys the coils in those speakers. So don't smoke in your studio at all. Also, we've got to have great speakers. You got to choose speakers that match what you hear with your ears. That means your ears have got to be in tune with your speakers. It's important to have a good monitoring speaker environment and a good studio acoustics. You've got to make sure there's no sound bouncing around where the walls are flat and just a room has got this straight dimension. Wow, the sound's bouncing here and here and there. It's terrible. We don't want too much of that. Now, our speakers are the windows to your mix. We don't want cloudy windows. We want to have clear windows. We want to see and hear this mix everywhere. Now, there is no one monitor for every mixer. Choose the correct monitor system for your budget and your personal preference. That way you've got what you can afford and it matches what you hear. There are three types of monitors. There are near fields, mid fields, and far fields. Now the mid fields are like a mid-range speaker. Far fields further back. I like to have, of course, my closest speakers, my near fields close to me. That's important to have them there. So they're right there at the level of my ears, or my right and left ear. Now you've got to pick the ideal speakers for you. Now one time this engineer, he was in all these big, noisy sessions, and his ears are like, wow, like really out there sometimes. So he couldn't take too much bottom. So the speakers he bought for himself were speakers that had like a lot of bottom because he really couldn't hear the bottom. He didn't realize that because his ears were like that. If you're a drummer in a band and you listen to cymbals all day smashing around, or you're next to the drummer and you're right near the cymbals, your ears can't see the high end. So you're going to pick speakers that will add high end to your ears. So it's important to get, let's say, a CD, take it to a store, listen back to the speakers, and pick the speakers that fit your ear. It's so important to get the right speakers for you and you feel happy with them to get that mix that you like. Now the monitors are like car brands. There are all kinds of brands. There's a Ford, there's a Chevy, there's a Toyota, there's all kinds of brands, ridiculous. But you got to find a brand that matches you. Now, I like the Alesis M1 active monitors that I use, which USB monitor. I use a lot. I love them with my computer system. They're great. They can give me that near field effect and a really flat response like the old NS10s had. And I want to make sure that I listen to those speakers. I can take my CD that I have and go to several different systems and mix it, check the MP3 and listen to it in the car, listening to my cousin's house, he's got a nice speaker system, or listen to it on my iPod. That's important to know. But you want to make sure you get the right brand that matches you, that has the right feel, the right sound of the bass, the right sound of the mid-range, or the high end, how that guitar sounds on there. Some guys are guitar players and they're mixing. You don't want to mix too much guitar. You want to mix that you mix for everything. So make sure the monitors give you the sound for everything, all those frequency ranges. I like to also get these speakers that are tri-amps or bi-amps. Now, check your mix on as many speakers as possible. High end, low end, headphones, earbuds, the iPod. You put the headphones in the speaker and the power amp. You put that headphone set on and you want to hear everything. Okay, how's that sound there? Then you want to hear how it sounds in a high-end room. Wow, we're in a bigger studio. Let's hear it here. Or I like to go to a club once in a while and pop it in there and see how it sounds in a club. Not a friend of mine, DJ, pop in there, see how it sounds. Know how your mix sounds before you even let anyone else hear it. Get a good perspective on where every frequency's at, your high, your mids, and your lows. It's important to do this. This is going to help you get a better mix each time you mix in your studio. So remember, you got your high end, your low end, your headphones, and the earbuds. These are my iPods. I make an MP3 file up, bam, got it. I'm going to use it that way. Now, should you mix with headphones? Now, there are pros and cons. The pros are that you can put the headset on, you can listen to the mix, it's closer to you, it's up front, you can hear everything much more accurately than having to have the speakers up. But the cons are, the problem is that you don't hear the panning as well. You lose the room ambience. You get that real good ambient sound in the back of the room, all around the room. You're missing that. And you don't get this left to right speaker bleed you normally have. When you got the speakers in the room, you can hear that sweep when it goes from panning from left to right, back and forth. In a headset, you don't get that feel. Now, some headset companies that make these headphones actually are trying to make headsets to improve that. They're making headsets that offer some headset, left to right, bleed. Some ambience in the headset, so that you can feel like, wow, I feel like I'm actually in the room when the headsets are on. And these solutions are made by several companies. You can go online, you can Google it, and look for great headsets, or go like your local music store and ask for these type of headsets. But personally, I prefer to mix in a room with a great ambient sound. But if you're doing hip-hop or doing R&B or reggae, the deal is that a lot of black music requires this bass feel to it, particularly in the last 20 years. It's more this bassy sound, and they like that. Particularly in club music, too, you want to hear the bass and the highs and the mids. Now, you got to make sure that you got your system set up right, but some guys want to use a subwoofer. I don't use a subwoofer, but if you do set up, you got to set up right, and it has a good feel to the room, and it's perfectly set up for your system. That subwoofer has got to be wired properly, and make sure it is. And make sure if you do have a subwoofer, you know what frequency is going to be in that subwoofer. Because otherwise you'll be mixing with too much bass in your mixes, and when you go play it in different places, you're going to lose that real feel you should have in your system. That means that you're going to make a mix, it's going to be too bassy from the subwoofer, you go somewhere and it's going to sound like really, really bad. And you don't want that. So make sure if you are going to use a subwoofer, that you consider the problems you're going to have and you won't have. Now, a good thing about subwoofers, you can get the bass right, you get a true accurate responsive bass, you may be doing a mixing for a movie score, or you may be just doing a club mix for something, you have the right bass frequency. And the point is to get the best practices. Now you can go online, you can go to several sites, you can Google them, and you can find out what's the best way to get the best mix, and you can go to Acoustics 101. And that's a great place online to get that and to find out what to do with a great mix with a subwoofer. It's important. Now, there's no big secret to acoustics, but the one big secret is the room must be tested. That means I run like maybe 30K, 20K, 1K, whatever. I'm going to run it in 1 hertz and run it through there, 30 hertz, and run it through my system. Like, turn this thing on and get this like hum, and how the room sounds. The room could be lying to you, and you can tell that. You can tell also if you play a CD you've had before that you like and heard in the club, hear that CD in your room, and go to some places in your room, like further back in the room. Go to the left, go to the right. Hear how that CD sounds in the room. Use your ears to listen out and understand the acoustics of the room that you're mixing in. That is so important to get that feel, whether you're close to the speakers or further away from the speakers. You want to make sure you get a real good, accurate response. Now, you got to make sure you have the right effect of the mixes also. That's important too. Now, the basic of room acoustics is you've got to have common issues. Sometimes a room could have the perfect dimensions, and that's really bad because we've got this box that we're in, and so the sound's bouncing back and forth. You have to treat your walls. I put some monitors sometime, I listen back to where they are in the room, and then what I'll do is I'll treat the room before I actually start using it. And we actually do that a lot of times for some friends. We'll walk in and we'll put in these wall panels so we can have the room not too dead, but almost dead. That's an important thing to do. We got to make sure the room has got some bass traps in it sometimes, so we can get rid of the bass out the room, so the bass is real accurate in the room. And we also might want to use some bass traps in the back of the room as well. That way I don't get too much bass in the back of me. I don't want to hear bass coming at me so heavily. I want to make sure I get an accurate response of where the bass is coming from the speaker, and I hear it accurately. And room nodes create this standing wave. So it's this wave going through. And when you play this like this one frequency to the whole room, we get a better idea of what's going on. We want to watch out for the reflections, the flutter echoes from high frequency waveforms. We got to make sure that our point that where the speaker hits the wall and the point where it comes back to us, we don't want to have too dead a room, and we're going to have a room that's too flat surface, where it's too much reflection in this room. We want to have a difference, not to have a room that's almost half, the walls are a little dead, we have some reflection in the room. So you get a much better response and a better signal that's going on. So I can say, okay, good, I understand what's happening here, this is what I want in my room. So it's room construction. Make sure the room's right. Now, some of this costs too much money we're getting into sometimes, but you've got to make sure that that room gives you an accurate response to what a CD you've heard before and how it sounds in that room. So you start mixing in that room, you get a much better feel for how the mix will sound on several different systems.